Hey, I'm Justine here on the BrowserFace AIE podcast. I'm so excited today to be joined by Sumanyu from Hamming AI. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, AIE is so much fun. I heard you just gave a talk this morning.
I
How did that
did.
go?
It was good. I talked about my time at Citizen. Citizen is a crime app, or like it's an app that sends crime alerts based on location. And I talked about how I spent 3 years listening to all kinds of crime in New York, SF, Chicago, Baltimore, Philly, and voice agents are becoming a thing, and they're obviously growing in popularity. You have Vappy, Retail, Bland. There's lots of companies that are pushing the boundary. However, I am more nervous about voice agents being adopted out in the wild than I was during my time at Citizen. So that was the talk. It's provocative. It feels, maybe not true, but actually I'm pretty nervous.
And walk me through that kind of, whole nervousness about security. You started at a company that gives people real-time data, and now, that's given you insight into building your own company.
Right now, conversational agents are being deployed, and a lot of them are actually lacking pretty critical guardrails that bad actors are exploiting. So imagine when Mythos learns how to dial, right? If it can hack the NSA, I'm pretty sure it can extract PHI and PII data from your voice agents. And we see a lot of voice agents deployed in the financial services space. You're a bank and you want an awesome experience for your members, or maybe you're a hospital system that wants to provide care. And all of these are, deployed with great intentions, but if not red teamed or secured correctly, you could be, as they say in banking, fine start with a B.
It's tough. I mean, and how is Hamming AI, taking on this challenge right now? What are you guys doing to tackle security?
So security is our latest product that we launched in April. It's the first of its kind. There hasn't really been a voice agent focused security, company so far until we came along. I would say we're building a conversational intelligence platform, of which
Mm.
security is one part of the puzzle. But the goal is to make sure, every time you make changes to your system, you want to run tests, you want to run simulations of real patients, real, I don't know, members conversing and talking and making sure everything is solid, but also turn on the adversarial bad actors and then validate. Are you sending money where you're not supposed to do? Are you telling a joke when you're not actually supposed to? It's against the
Yeah,
brand.
yeah, yeah.
Are you mentioning competitors when you're not supposed to be mentioning competitors? Are you giving medical advice on the phone? Because the voice agents are very much built to be helpful. They can be too helpful and cross the boundary. So testing, monitoring, and security are sort of the core pillars of what we think is the essential, ecosystem that every enterprise needs to to deliver a great experience without getting wrecked, in public on
Mhm.
Twitter.
Yeah, I think evaluations is like, really central to what you guys are building, especially with something that's so non-deterministic, like the human like voice and like dialogue experience. How
Pretty
are you
much.
guys like dealing with that kind of testing?
That's a great question. So reality is pretty messy. I mean, people can't really hear this, but it's very noisy where we're sitting.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people talking. There's background noise. So we will simulate different kinds of background noises to create realism. We're trying to package the real world. People speak with different accents. They speak with different, maybe they switch languages. They're speaking Spanish. They switch to English back and forth. These are all different modalities and sort of failure modes that we package behind a single click. And so that's the power. The power is to take the real world and ask Cloud Code, hey, run these tests for me, and for us to kind of simulate that. That's basically the core.
And
That's the magic.
super magical. And then behind the scenes, I assume it's like a human running through those tests and deciding with like human judgment.
No, so it's all automated.
Okay, wait, tell me more.
So we have voice agents that are testing voice agents. So we
Okay.
ourselves use conversational voice agents behind the scenes. And yeah, I mean, look, we can speak 65 plus languages. We can stop talking in the middle of a conversation. We can have a kid screaming in the back.
Brought up a lot of really interesting use cases from, like family, more conversational translation, to healthcare, to also crime.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most interesting, or I guess like the most impactful use case that you've seen of voice agents?
I think going back to my roots of listening to 911 calls, I actually think uh, dispatchers who are listening in to crime, they're often understaffed and overwhelmed. And honestly, it's a pretty traumatic experience to listen to people talk about, oh, I got stabbed and I'm bleeding. I mean, that's not a thing that you can just like forget pretty quickly. And I think any work going into triaging and serving, these underserved, often um, requests coming down the pipe, I think is sort of awesome. So I would say 911 is an awesome use case. That 311, 911 both are incredible use cases to make it easier for people to report in for crime, safety, or other issues.
And specifically on kind of like the more banking use case, like crime is one in which it's like reporting and getting people the help they need. But what about when it comes to like the decision making layer? Because like we think a lot about decision making here at Browser Base. Like our browser agents power like what would be a human clicking around on the web and like dragging and like filling out forms. So we often want to simulate, how do we get an agent to make decisions the way a human would when it comes to a browser interface? How do like voice agents target like when it comes to like, doing actions like filling out bank statements or opening accounts? Like when does it touch the decision making layer?
Actually, most of the voice agents, at least that we're testing or monitoring, they take actions. They're not just, hey, what's my bank balance, or
Mhm.
what happened in the last week. That's kind of useful, but not that much better than IVR experience. So most enterprises, they are enabling tool use. They're enabling complex tool use,
Mm.
which makes life pretty hard for them. In attempts to make it easier for the consumer, it's actually really hard to validate correctness and have um, guardrails in place for perhaps potentially destructive actions, like sending a zeal to some random account that is not authenticated. So um, taking actions is essential. Like, to be if the goal is to reproduce and kind of make the world much more human, well, humans can take actions, and so that is, I would say, table stakes. It's becoming table stakes. But that's what makes it dangerous.
Hmm. And like, I think what's really central to this conversation too is like human judgment being baked into like the way the voice agent is trained so that by the time it makes that one decision, it's had like layers and layers of context as of like what's right and what's
That's
wrong
correct.
already. But what about like a use case scenario when like that agent like fails? Like you deal with huge customers. Like we were talking earlier about, landing top banks and, all these huge customers that you have. But like what happens when things go wrong? How do you adapt from there?
Our philosophy is we would rather try to catch these failures up front, hence the focus on 24/7 continuous red teaming and functional testing. So we try to expose risk up front as much as possible, but we don't obviously catch everything, right? There's still, reality ends up still being messier than even our wildest kind of imaginations. Uh, the best move is to monitor every single conversation and the decision traces that led to the actions that were taken.
Hmm.
And we send alerts, to be honest. So we send alerts to compliance teams and security teams when we notice aberrant behavior. That's sort of the best, that's sort of the best answer I have right now. In the future, we would love to build a firewall where we can block these transactions from happening in the first place, that we deem to be unsafe or require an extra layer of protection. For example, sending a 2FA code or an email
Mm-hmm.
kind of code to get that extra opt-in. But right now, we're focused on alerting as fast as possible. In the future, we might just take over the entire decisioning, process towards the tail end from a safety
Yeah.
angle. So that's
Yeah.
maybe foreshadowing on kind of future roadmap.
Ooh, foreshadowing. What is the agentic future? AGI coming up. Kind of more on that note. You're really working at the frontier of voice agents. I think we at Raspberries believe this too. It's like, we're very very close to a point in which agents are almost going to be a second brain for humans. Especially when it comes to such like high compliance, high risk. Like we deal with banks as well, with law firms, all these things that seem like kind of like dinosaur fields are very quickly being swept up. What's your view or like your take on what the agentic future looks like in the next few months or years?
Um, I think more of the same. I
Yeah.
think we'll see more autonomy and omni-channel experiences and omni-channel interfaces with consumers is going to become the norm, where you might text somebody or you might text your bank for some information, and maybe it requires you to come to a browser and it might actually automate a lot of the flows for you and demonstrate to you what needs to be done, or execute that over the phone. So I think multimodality and omni-channel are probably the biggest themes that I expect to happen, to create really novel, unique experiences for end consumers. So I think it's more of the same, more intelligence, probably multimodality and omni-channel are kind of my more interesting
Yeah.
predictions.
Yeah.
That's probably inevitable.
Would be cool if someone behind the scenes at Citizen like heard my 911 call, went on my WhatsApp, like texted my family,
That'd be awesome.
like little things like that. I think those are probably the most impactful, like
I can email the team
multimodal.
if you want. If you have more product ideas, I'm happy to email the
Wait,
team.
I live in New York. Citizen like saves my life. I'm telling you. When I first moved to San Francisco, I went on Citizen when I heard fireworks and I was like, what's going on? Yeah. Let them know my idea. Let them know.
Happy to share. Happy to share.
Last question, kind of fun. Do you have any hot takes on voice agents?
Ooh, I have to think really hard because I'm gonna piss off a lot of people with a lot of my opinions. A lot of them are partners. I'm kind of figuring out, what can I say that won't get me in too much trouble.
That's what the
Um,
hot takes are for.
I think so. Okay, I'll go with a milder take.
Okay,
Maybe not the
mild
hottest
take.
take.
We'll do
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a medium
yeah,
warm take.
yeah. I don't think I'm gonna go with the hottest take. I have in voice. Uh, I think everyone has rushed towards B2B and solving B2B challenges. And I think more founders should work on consumer. So I've worked on, I mean, maybe I'm a hypocrite. I don't know. But like, Citizen is a consumer product. I was at Tesla before. That's also, consumer. I think there's incredible consumer experiences to be built. I think Tollens, it's like AI companion. I think they're doing an incredible job, and more founders should lean heavier into consumer. So I think consumer is very underexplored as a category. So that's my mild take. Do you agree with that? Is that a hot take, or is that consensus?
As someone who works in a B2B company, I do agree that like more companies need to be leading like the more direct to human transition to an agentic future. I do really, really agree with that. Like most people outside of the B2B sphere have no idea what's going on.
Yes.
Except for the super AGI pilled like X people who are
Yeah.
also probably working at B2B companies themselves.
Probably.
Yeah, like even that one example about like WhatsApp that I just brought up being embedded into like 911 calls. Like I think that like many consumer, startups can be focusing on things like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's super underexplored. AI companions, I think therapists, I think dating use cases. There's even more ideas that I probably haven't even brainstormed that could be possible now that were not possible before. So I don't know. If I was starting a company, I would actually maybe try consumer first instead of B2B.
Great mild take. Well, we'll catch your hot takes another time when it's like more appropriate to share. But really appreciate your time here, Sumanyu. Really
Thank you so much.
appreciate it. Yeah. Have a great AIE.
Thank you. Appreciate it.